Hi, this is Howard, the Teaserking, coming to you with a little college football talk. Um, One quick note that I like to bring up is teams that were very good that had a bad year. They tend to play very well and are really pissed off, provided they're not injury riddled. And that's probably what happened the last year was they got hurt with injuries, aka Florida State, who lost their quarterback the first week against Alabama, and they never recovered. So look for Florida State to have a bigger year. 2 years ago was Notre Dame and Michigan State. Both had, Michigan State had 3 wins. I don't remember Notre Dame, but it wasn't pretty. And then they both came back strong. So you just gotta. That's what you look for. It's any motivation. It's any little things that happen. But I would keep my eye on Florida State this year. Um, Another thing to keep you're mindful of is the coaching changes. Scott Frost left UCF for Nebraska. Well, I think they won every game. I think they covered every game. I mean, they were great last year, UCF, to bet on. So that leaves you two dilemmas. How do I bet UCF this year? And how do I bet Nebraska this year? Is my coach, Scott Frost, going to go into Nebraska and they're going to go undefeated? Well, probably not, because he doesn't really have his players. At best, he recruited 5 or 6 players. Maybe he took a couple of kids from UCF with him, but the talent he had at UCF was much, much better than Nebraska. So your key question is, how do I bet Scott Frost this year? You don't know. You know he's a good coach. It's like when Harbaugh came. That first year, I think he went 6-6 or 7-5 against the number, and his problem's been quarterbacking. But it's just hard. Like, he's not going to produce like he did at UCF. He just doesn't have the players. It's a different league, different competition. But I think he will do well. But my point is, you got to keep an eye on the coaches. All these new coaches, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, before in the 70s and 80s, even in the 90s, you'd have a few coaches move. The smaller, like Urban Meyer would go from Bowling Green, where he was very successful, to Utah, where he was very successful. And he just came in, but he just has a system. He runs a spread offense that works anywhere but the NFL. So that's what you're looking for, with Urban. But he was good, and he kept being good. Scott Frost has Mackenzie Milton. Now at Nebraska, he doesn't have a quarterback, so he's got to develop one. That's one of the keys, is defense. He had great receivers and running backs at UCF, which he doesn't have at Nebraska. So, give him a year to watch. But my point is, watch these new coaches. Don't just start jumping on them like, oh, it's Scott Frost. He was great at UCF. Nebraska's going to go 10-2. Well, you can't. Maybe he will, but you got to watch that. Now, in the back of your mind, Scott Frost is a good coach. Jeff Brom from Western Kentucky's at Purdue is a good coach. So the longer they're there and they establish their players, if they can build this program at Western Kentucky and UCF, can they build it at Purdue and Nebraska? We don't know. We think so. We like to hope so, because we like to bet on these coaches, but we don't know. I mean, look at McElwain left Colorado State, where they were lighting it up, for Florida, and he was terrible at Florida. So most of the key is the quarterback. If you have a good quarterback, you're going to do fine. Jeff Brom did at Western Kentucky. He had Brandon Doherty and then Mackenzie Milton at UCF. So sometimes the coach isn't as good as you think. It's the player. It's Joe Montana made the coach. So you've got to see who it is, and really get a feel for it. So as much as we're betting the coach, we've got to bet the quarterback also. It's a combination. Does the coach make the quarterback? Does the quarterback make the coach? That's still up for argument. I think Brady makes Belichick, because without Brady, they're not winning anything. But they could win without Belichick. that's my point. That's always been my point. Look at Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers. As soon as he gets hurt, Green Bay doesn't do anything. He's healthy. All of a sudden, Green Bay's one of the top teams. So it helps to have a great player, always. So that's what you're looking for. Be careful of the new quarterbacks. Be careful of the new coaches. I will do videos on the new coach and new quarterback, and there's too many of them. I mean, you'll have them switch. Look at Willie Taggart. South Florida, has Quentin Flowers, leaves for Oregon for 1 year, and the Florida State job opens up and he goes to Florida State. What is wrong with this guy? He should still be at South Florida where he has a chance. Now he's at Florida State, and good luck. You're playing Clemson, and Miami's much better, and Pittsburgh's getting better, North Carolina. So, I mean, you've got a lot more competition, so they're looking at the Bucks, but they're not looking, are they going to be successful? That's why I like the coach at TCU. TCU, he moved them into the Big 12, and he's still a great coach, Goldsmith, and they win, and he's moved his game up. But when he was in the Mountain West, they were an awesome team. They would just clean everybody's clocks. They'd win every game by 30. I'd bet them in Utah. It was like, I don't care who they're playing. I'm betting TCU and Utah, and I'd win every week until they played each other. So that's what you're looking for, and that's what you got to be careful of. The new quarterback, give him 4 or 5 games. The new coach, you probably got to give them a year, but you watch the trend, and if they're doing well, then you can bet on them. All right, I'm here to talk about the Big Ten and the ACC, so let's start talking. Let's go to the Big Ten first. Ohio State has everybody back but a quarterback. Great running, great receiving, great defense, great offensive line. The quarterback I'm not worried about because it's got nothing to do with the skill set of the quarterback as much as the offense. And since the offense is a spread offense where he's running and throwing and it's all option, am I going to run or am I going to throw? Most of the quarterbacks he gets, as you saw, J.T. Barrett and all these guys just step right in and off they go. So I'm not worried about him having a quarterback. I'd give the new quarterback 2 or 3 games and then start betting Ohio State as you would. They're going to be a little weak in the secondary. So if they played a really strong passing team, they might have, like when Oklahoma shredded them last year, you might see that again if they play a passing team. But until then, if they just play a normal team, Ohio State should do fine. I'd say Wisconsin's going to be number 2 in that league. They got it all. They've got the quarterback. Usually they don't. They got the running back. They got good receivers, a killer defense, offensive line. They got all 5 of their offensive line are all Big Ten, and half of them are all Americans. So look for Wisconsin. Now they generally want to ball control you, so it's hard to bet and lay. They're laying 30-something to Western Kentucky. It's hard to. Wisconsin isn't. Ohio State can score in 30 seconds on you. They can run the option or give the ball, and the guy breaks it, and it's a touchdown. Then they get some pick sixes or some turnovers. Wisconsin will get you the turnover, but they're going to run the ball and eat up the clock. So it's hard to get that 50-point game. They did when they had Russell Wilson because he could throw the ball and they would score quickly. And with their defense, they just kill you. But with this, it's a little bit different here. So it's hard to lay a lot, but they'd be a great dog. In any close game, they should win. I think they go to Iowa. It should be a good laying 7. You cut them to 1 in the teaser, and it should be good. The third team, it depends. It's either Michigan or Penn State. Michigan has a killer defense. They got 4 All-Americans on defense. Both defensive ends, a couple of linebackers. Then all Big Ten, they got a couple of corners. They got 6 studs on defense. And the way they play defense, I mean, I'm looking for unders all over. Now let's see how the new quarterback goes. The new quarterback, Patterson, does anything the way he normally does. If Patterson is if Patterson is anything like he was at Ole Miss, where he had some big games until he played the bigger teams like LSU or whatever, then he didn't have as big of games. But when he had big games, I mean, he could throw. He was supposedly a very top recruit, the number 1 or 2 quarterback, which I always laugh at because out of high school you have no idea any of these guys, who their competition was or how good they are. A running back you can kind of spot, but even then it depends on their competition. And in high school I don't put any ranking into it. So if Patterson's good, the problem with Michigan has been their quarterback, Wilton Spate. He stunk. Then he gets injured, and then this O'Corn, who was supposed to be, I watched him as a freshman at Houston. He looked like crap. I don't get where Harbaugh, I understand why he's having a hard time recruiting quarterbacks, because not a lot of high schools are playing a pro-style offense. They're either in a spread or they're in an option. So the quarterbacks are either, boom, there's 5 wide receivers, or the quarterback's running. But not a lot of quarterbacks are getting the snap, either handing off or option, or ball fake and then throwing to the tight end. So there's slim pickings when he needs his quarterback that he wants. So with that said, that's been Harbaugh's problem. He's got good running backs and good receivers this year, and he's got a killer defense. If Patterson is very good, you bet Michigan all over the place anytime. If they're the dog to Penn State, if they're the dog to Ohio State, you bet them. If Patterson is not or he gets injured, then you go under every game, because this team, nobody's scoring on them. I mean, not with this defense. This is better than the defense 2 years ago. So you have this stud, superstar, steel curtain, just to give you some dialogue, going up with, Bradshaw's his third year and Franco Harris his first year, and you're going to run Franco into the line. That's about what you're going to do here. It's going to take this Patterson a few games. They open up against Notre Dame. There's not going to be any score in the game, because Notre Dame's got studs on their defense also, and with the studs on Michigan's defense, it's going to be a 10-6 game. That's about it. I'll give you that first game under, but you got to see how Patterson progresses. That's the whole key to it. But Michigan's got the defense. They're going to be under in a lot of games, and/or you're going to bet them if Patterson's real and they're putting up 30 a game, they're not going to lose. So I got Michigan there. I got Penn State even with them. You got McSorley. You lost your tight end. You lost Barkley. Their defense wasn't that good anyway. It was okay, but they shouldn't have lost to Ohio State. They should certainly never have lost to Michigan State. But that was a 3-hour rainstorm that delayed the game, which made that very difficult. But if Penn State can replace Barkley at all, and usually running backs a position you can replace easier than quarterback. I mean, there's always some running, out there. I look for Penn State to be right up there. Again, they'll have a little fall off because of Barkley, because it makes McSorley better, because he can hand off to Barkley. Then he fakes to Barkley. Everybody's keying on Barkley. His receivers are man to man. They're single covered. He's got all day because everybody's at Barkley. You lose Barkley, the play action pass isn't going to work. Who you're gonna give it to a running back? He ain't going to do anything. The defense is going to key on you now, not the running back. So look for McSorley to not be as strong as he was last year. He does run the ball, and their defense is good, but they're not that good. They're not I thought they should have definitely been in the playoff last year. Even though they had 2 losses, it was screwy losses. They lost at the end to Ohio State by a point, and in a rainstorm to Michigan State. They were much better than Alabama. I mean, it wouldn't have been a game. Alabama is a joke. They should never have been in there because Georgia and Auburn beat them. Or Auburn beat them. They didn't win their conference. Auburn gets screwed because they win and then they lose in the title game. And all of a sudden, Alabama, yeah, come on, you lost to Auburn. We're going to reward you and put you in the playoff. That's ridiculous. Definitely should have been Auburn in the. It should have been Georgia, and it should have been Ohio State or Penn State. I guess Penn State should have been in the playoff all day, or Ohio State won the Big Ten. That's your playoff. It should never have been Alabama. That's the problem with 4 teams, and you got a committee going. We like them. It's such bullshit. Play the game on the field. You win your conference. You have your championship game, the SEC. Georgia plays Auburn. The winner goes to the playoffs. The loser might be in as a wild card because you're going to have 16 teams in your playoff, and all the conference championship game winners are in. And then you pick either you're independent or like UCF should have definitely been in. And then the loser, like you could have put Auburn in because they had beaten Alabama and Georgia. So it's funny, they beat Georgia. That game doesn't count. It's the conference championship game that counts more. The Pac-10 team, they got screwed. So it's just a matter of the playoffs suck. But that's what I look for. So look for Penn State. Let's see how they replace Barkley. This is what's with college. You've got to look at the replacement. You've got to give it a few games. Now, the team I'm looking for is the team that's all set. They've already got the table set. And after that, Michigan State. Michigan State has the table set. They've got the quarterback, Lewerke. They got L.J. Scott. They got good receivers. They got a killer defense. Michigan State's all set. That's a different story. Now, they're not up to Ohio State standard, and I think they got Ohio State at home. And one key fact, they never beat Ohio State at home. Michigan State wins at Ohio State, and Ohio State wins at Michigan State for the last 20 years. So don't think because Michigan State's hosted Ohio State, they're going to win. They're not. Ohio State is a very good road team, and they're not necessarily they're a dog, but they know how to. They go into Michigan State and they win. They just get the chip on the shoulder, saying these guys, we're going to beat these guys because they might beat us. And when a good team gets scared, they play their best. So be careful with that. But Michigan State's right up there. I'd say Ohio State's 1. I got Wisconsin, Penn State, Michigan State, all 2. I mean, they're all very, very strong teams. Michigan State tends not to cover the 30 points. They open with Utah State, and they're laying 20-something, 25. They're laying 25. It's a hard number. I haven't gotten to my Utah State research yet, but I'm working on it. And that's what you're looking at is are they run the ball too much? These running teams, Wisconsin, Michigan State, they're live dogs. They're live road teams. But when you're asking them to win by 30, they tend not to win by 50 points. And if you're laying 25 to 30 points, what you're saying is either I'm going to shut you out and I'm going to win 31-0, or I got to score 50 points and you're going to score 17 to cover. And from what I'm seeing, that's not what you're going to get. They're not going to score 50. So therefore, that's when it gets tight on that spread. So you got to be careful. I like looking for the strong offensive teams to lay to 30 with, like I was with Western Kentucky, UCF, South Florida the last few years. Western Kentucky 2 years ago when they had Braun, and last year and the last couple years South Florida with Flowers and Taggart would run up the score, and then Frost would run up the score with Mackenzie Milton. That's the teams you lay the over. You got the good coach, and the Wisconsin, Michigan State, they're not into running the score up, and so therefore they play, let's play stop. will play defense. We're going to run the ball and play defense. Those aren't teams you lay the 30 with, so it's very difficult there. After that, you got Northwestern, Iowa, and Purdue, and then it's let's see about Nebraska, let's see about Maryland, and then Illinois is terrible and Rutgers is terrible. So you're betting against Illinois and Rutgers. Illinois has absolutely no quarterback. Rutgers is starting a freshman quarterback. So those two you're going to be taking advantage of. Let's go through this. So Northwestern, you got Clayton Thorson back at quarterback. You lost Jackson, the running back. You've got we've got a solid team. You got a good team. They were 29 offense and 19 defense, so they had a very strong defense. The coach is still there. The quarterback got hurt in the bowl game, Thorson. So let's see if he's available for Purdue. If he's not, I'm taking Purdue in that first game. Iowa has Stanley back, the quarterback. They're young and they have a good secondary, so they're going through. They do have the same coach. It's an average offense, so they play like Ohio State. That's going to be a revenge game, but I don't know if they play them. Let's take a look if we have the revenge lock of life going. No, Ohio State doesn't play Iowa. Too bad. That would have been a nice. That's what you're looking for in a revenge game, when Iowa keeps Ohio State out of the playoff, and then you get them next year. I remember the Jets beat Baltimore in Super Bowl III, right? What they don't tell you is the next year, Baltimore beat them 35-0 in their revenge game. So revenge plays a big factor. Let's see, Nebraska again. It's Scott Frost. There's no quarterback, and they got a pretty strong defense. So you got to be careful there. Now Frost will bring in his system, but they got to find a quarterback. So you've got to wait on Nebraska until they got the quarterback. It's not just jump on Scott Frost, so you got to be patient there. Minnesota, no quarterback, weak passing offense, very young team. So again, you're laying 20 points with Minnesota. Where are they going to score 20? When you're laying 20, that means the team's got to score 40 for you to win. You're not going to win 21-0. So you're laying 21, 24 points. You've got to put up a 40 and hope it's 40-14. And unless, you got to have a quarterback to do that, and Minnesota doesn't. So Minnesota is not a live favorite, and I don't see him as a live dog. Maryland, they got Taysom Hill back. Their defense sucked. Strong offense, weak defense is what I see. And it's just a question mark. Are they going to be, they put up a lot of points last year, but they lost all their quarterbacks. So I think they're changing their offense, because what good is running an option and getting all your quarterbacks hurt? And then you can't do anything. So I don't look for Maryland. Indiana, no experience, no quarterback, spread offense, average defense. They're just a very young team, so you don't know what you're getting, although the coach is still there. Big Purdue, you got David Blau, good quarterback. This is an over team. This is a team with a great offense. Jeff Brom, the coach, who runs it up, but they don't have a good defense. They got an average defense. So I look for Purdue to score a lot and be an over. So when Purdue plays another good offensive team, let's say they play Nebraska and start scoring a lot, then I'm going to play the over. It's tough if they play if they play Wisconsin. I don't want anything to do with Purdue, because they're going to have a hard time scoring and they can't stop them. The key to a dog is the defense, right? I could play Wisconsin as a dog, Michigan as a dog, Notre Dame as a dog, Ohio State. I'm not sure about Penn State. I don't know how strong their defense is going to be. But if you have a good defense, you can shut down the other team. You score a few touchdowns, that's a live dog. That's what you want. That's your first question. Who has the best defense? Then I can talk about playing the dog. So Purdue's very live against the weaker teams. Maryland, Minnesota, Nebraska. I can play Purdue to win or as a dog, absolutely. If Purdue goes to Minnesota and they're getting 4 points, I can tease them up to 10. That might be a lock with that offense, right? Because Minnesota doesn't have the offense to take advantage of the defense. Illinois, terrible team. They've won 2 or 3 games. Lovie Smith's a horrible coach. The Tampa 2, I never understood it in the first place. Very young team. He started a lot of freshmen and sophomore last year. And that doesn't mean they're any good. He has no quarterback. This is a bet against team. Rutgers, another weak team. Freshman quarterback. They're lost. They don't score a lot. So that's it. So the Teaserking theory is I take the strong teams and I bet against the weak teams. When the strong teams play each other, I like the dog. But when strong plays weak, I'm taking the strong to pound them. So the strongest, Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan, Michigan State. And you see how Nebraska does and Purdue and Iowa. But the weak teams are Illinois and Rutgers. So anytime you got Ohio State, will play Rutgers. They will kill them. Wisconsin will kill Illinois. Illinois is lucky they're in the other division. They don't have as many powers, but on the crossover, they're going to lose to Wisconsin, and then it's Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, and Penn State. They got to play at least one of those teams. That's a W against right there. So that's what you're looking for. Let's get into the ACC. Clemson should be the cream. Miami's should be very strong. Pitt should be better. North Carolina State. Florida State, watch them. They had a bad year. They should bounce back, have a good year. I like Willie Taggart, the coach, but he doesn't have Quentin Flowers. But he does have some good quarterbacks that can run that option for him. So I think Clemson's like 1, and then everybody else is like 3. Like Florida State's a step below, Miami's a step below, Georgia Tech. Pittsburgh, look for them to get a little better. Their quarterback, they have this quarterback supposed to be really good, Pickett. If he's good, their defense is supposed to be like Michigan State was. This is the Michigan State defensive coordinator from a few years ago. So finally, I think he's getting a Michigan State type of defense in, and he's got Pickett the quarterback. Look for Pitt to be a strong dog, and come on. North Carolina stinks. They're weak defense, weak quarterback. North Carolina State will have a strong offense. Ryan Finley's a very, very top quarterback. They got a weak defense. Wake Forest should be solid again. No quarterback. Solid defense. Syracuse has the Baylor offense they run. They have had their quarterback injured, Dungy. He's healthy. Look for them to score more, but their defense still is weak. Boston College could be a surprise. Anthony Brown, very good quarterback. They got an elite running back. Weak wide receiver. Defense is average. So they actually are going to have a strong offense, and their defense isn't going to be as strong as it's been. So they'll be a good team. Virginia, no quarterback, weak defense, strong running backs. Don't know what to do with them. Duke should be good. Strong quarterback in Jones, strong defense. So look for Duke to be a live dog in most of the games. Georgia Tech should be good. Good quarterback, good running back, obviously, strong running. Their defense isn't as strong as it should be, but they're going to be able to run. They're a pretty live dog. Miami, very strong. Malik Rozier's okay. He's not a great quarterback. And they got a young defense. Louisville, supposedly will have a good offense, but they don't have a quarterback. And they got a young defense. So look for Alabama to kill Louisville. Louisville was all about Lamar Jackson. That was it. I don't know. Now, I love the coach. He's a great coach. Surprised he hasn't been scoring like he has. He used to have a great defense there. So something's wrong with Louisville, but they're a couple of steps down. Clemson's Clemson. Incredibly strong defensive line. Incredibly strong defense. Average quarterback in Bryant. They'll have running backs and receivers. Obviously a live dog. Very strong team. I have them as an under because their defense is incredible. Of their defensive line, 4 guys, 3 of them will be drafted in the first round. That's how strong Clemson is. And then Florida State, you got Taggart. The spread offense, he's gonna the defense needs to step up. They're not the typical Florida State defense. So be careful with them. So obviously the number 1 is Clemson. The next level, Florida State, Miami, Georgia Tech. Pitt could get there. North Carolina State will have the offense. Boston College will be there. Duke is just a little bit under it. I didn't talk about Virginia Tech. Strong quarterback Josh Jackson. Young defense, but you got the great defensive coordinator, and it's just a young team. Check Josh Jackson's health if he's healthy. But basically, they could be strong. So Pitt could be strong. So you have a lot of good teams. Your worst team is probably North Carolina, Louisville, Virginia. Syracuse will be pretty strong offensively, and then Wake Forest. So you're going to have, let's say you got Florida State playing Syracuse. The bet's over. You have Clemson playing maybe Wake, who started scoring. Well, let's not go with Wake. Let's say they're playing North Carolina. You're betting that game under. I mean, North Carolina doesn't have anything. Let's look for a strong, like Pitt. Let's say Clemson's playing Pitt. That's an under game. Not North Carolina's got a weak defense, so you just bet against them. NC State, great quarterback. They're going to overteam. So North Carolina State plays Syracuse. You bet the game over. 2 strong offenses, 2 weak defenses should light it up. And that's the concept of it. You don't have an Illinois in this league. I don't know who the worst team really is. Maybe Virginia. Maybe North Carolina. Louisville won't be that bad. So you keep an eye on that. But that's basically what you have there. So we're in the Big Ten. You have Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Michigan State, Wisconsin. I mean, you're just strong up top. You have Clemson, maybe Miami, maybe Florida State, maybe Pittsburgh, maybe Duke. But they're a level down. They're not in the Michigan, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Penn State class. They're down the Nebraska class. So you'll have it'll be a very competitive league, but Clemson's up here, and then it's Florida State, Miami, and then from there it can be anybody. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the new. There's really only Willie Taggart, which we're familiar with from South Florida, there. And Florida State's been beaten up the last year, so look for them to be pissed off and have a strong year. Miami is getting to be old Miami, I hope. Maybe Michael Irvin will go back there, I hope. And Bernie Kosar, he's done. Let him. He's got 2 years of eligibility left. Put him back there. So look for like Miami, Florida State, Virginia Tech, a little bit young. And that's the thing with college. You can't look at last year's team and go, oh, I'm going to bet against Pitt because they weren't that good last year. No, they got a good quarterback. They got the defense going. They're not the same team. Louisville doesn't have Jackson. You've got to look at this year as this year. Now, yes, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Michigan State. You can pretty much you know what you got from last year. It's the Scott Frost going to Nebraska that you have no idea. And those are games you need to watch and just take your notes and go, okay, let's see what happened. All right, everybody. That's Teaser King doing the Big Ten, the ACC. The site, www.teaserking.com. The passwords are in, the amounts are in. We start Labor Day. Well, I'm already started, but I mean, first games are Labor Day. Good luck to everybody. Have a great. Hope you had a great 4th of July. Have a great summer, and I'll be around if you need me. And then we're looking forward to Labor Day. All right, everybody. Have a great week. www.teaserking.com.